on है? ये on है? Hello? Hello? Wishing a fine morning to the jury, dignitaries and the audience. I would like to start with a thanks. You might wonder why. I would like to thank the resilient scientific community and the farming community who have pulled out this nation from 28 famines in British Raj, from its ship-to-mouth existence to the one that is self-sufficient in food grain production with record-breaking food production figures each year. Although our contribution to GDP is just about 17%, our contribution to workforce is about 46%. Now, looking at an interesting stat in the hike of salaries of these professions in the last 4.5 decades, we find that school teachers had a minimum hike of 280 times, government employees 120 times, college professors 150 times, and any guesses about farmers? Just 20 to 30 times. We can definitely say that agriculture has flourished, but the question is, did the farmer benefit too? And that is why we speak of moving from production-led to market-led agriculture. And that is where the very concept of agri-entrepreneurship was put forward by our own institution. We find that in the last few years, there are a plethora of policies and institutions which have started promoting agri-entrepreneurship, and it is important to understand what are their functions, facilities, what are their support areas, what kind of interventions are being carried out, and are these interventions really effective, and what could be the constraints and strategies to rule out these constraints. So, we have devised a study on institutional interventions for agri-entrepreneurship development as a part of my doctoral work. I am Sujay Kademani from the Division of Agricultural Extension here before you. The study was conducted in 2 states of India, Rajasthan and Telangana, which were chosen purposely from where about 16 institutions, among which 43 professionals and 200 entrepreneurs were the respondents. And this is the conceptual framework of our study from where each of our objectives have been derived. The first objective has been picked from this particular part of the conceptual framework, that is to undertake an analysis of the institutions promoting agri-entrepreneurship in the sampling area. These were the 16 institutions considered, 8 in each state. Starting from basic profile to the strategic areas of support, as you can see on top, are the parameters that were considered in the first objective. We can see that majority of these institutions have been established in the last 5 to 10 years, linked to an academic or a research institution with a mandate of entrepreneurship development and a countrywide outreach. Their clients were either youth or service-based entrepreneurs, and they had adequate infrastructure in terms of training halls and prototype testing facilities. Their main modes of training were either demonstration or workshops. They had adequate human resource in terms of number of staff, skilled trainers and guest faculty. Looking at their progress in the last 3 years, we find that majority of these institutions have trained or incubated about 50 to 100 entrepreneurs, secured a funding of 10 to 20 crore, more than 20 incubation programs have been conducted, and about 30 to 50% of the entrepreneurs trained by these institutions have emerged successful. Now, looking at the strategic areas of support, we find that branding and PR, pitch deck preparation support, certification support were among the high focus areas, business and financial model development, business coaching and mentoring, networking and investor connect were among the medium focus areas, whereas funding by the organization itself, facilitation for grants and funding and intellectual property development were among the low focus areas. We have also documented a few novel approaches wherein AgHub of PGTSU followed a hub and spoke model, whereas AIDEA of NAM used to conduct immersion programs with FPOs and buyer-seller meets, and Root City in Jaipur used to give extended follow-up support and conducted entrepreneur melas. 2 research papers have been the outcome of this objective. Moving ahead to the second objective, which has been picked from this particular part of the conceptual framework, that is to assess the extent of support and the perceived effect of institutional interventions on agri-entrepreneurs. This was dealt in 2 parts. In the first part, we have developed a multidimensional scale, ICARs, institutional support for agripreneurship development scale. That was done in 3 stages. In the first and second stage, we have conducted literature review, focus group discussion and relevancy testing, and the third stage we have conducted exploratory and confirmatory factor analysis. With a Cronbach alpha score of 0.8, the scale was found to be reliable. Looking at the results of the exploratory factor analysis, we found that there were 4 major components that explained about 67% of the variance, and these components were named as technical, financial, legal and bureaucratic, and production and marketing. Further, confirming our hypothesis, in the confirmatory factor analysis, the model was found to be fit with a C mean by degrees of freedom score of 3.3, and this were the final list of 24 items that were part of the ICARs scale. Looking at the dimension wise scores, we find that production and marketing dimension has got highest weightage, whereas financial dimension has got lowest score, which means there should be more emphasis on the financial aspects for these entrepreneurs. Majority of the entrepreneurs have reported had received medium extent of support, and moving to the second part of this objective, we have tried to develop a composite index of perceived effect of institutional support for agripreneurs, IPESA, to assess the perceived effect of institutional interventions, which was done in a 7-stage methodology. We had listed about 46 indicators within the 5 dimensions, and these dimensions were assigned weightages through 3 different methods: budget allocation process, Shannon entropy method, and equal weightage method. After conducting the uncertainty and sensitivity analysis, we could find that Shannon entropy method was found far superior, as it was able to depict more variability, and that was chosen for further analysis, which yielded the results that among the farm-based, off-farm and service and tech entrepreneurs, each of them had medium extent of perceived effect of institutional interventions on their dimensions. 2 research papers have been the product of this objective. Moving ahead to the third objective, that is to delineate the factors determining an effective intervention leading to a successful agri-enterprise. We all know that a successful agri-enterprise is a product of an individual's psycho-personal and social characteristics as well as external institutional factors, which we have delineated with linear regression and the principal component analysis. Looking at the results of the psycho-personal and social factors, we could identify that for farm-based entrepreneurs, there were 5 determinants. For off-farm and service and tech entrepreneurs, we had 6 determinants each among the total 23 predictors that have been listed below. Looking at the results of the institutional factors, we find that among the technical factors, there are support during project formulation and preparation. Among the financial factors, priority lending and reduced rate of interest. In implementation factors, long-term strategic involvement of the institutions, identifying and establishing appropriate relations and agreements with other collaborators. In operational factors, time connect, that is training institute, industry, market and entrepreneur connect. And among the administrative factors, organizational commitment in terms of funds and manpower to fulfill the mission, as well as a formal reinforcement to adopt the intervention, where the major factors that were marked as important by all the 3 kinds of entrepreneurs. 1 research paper has been the outcome of this objective. Moving ahead to the last objective, which has been picked from this particular part of the conceptual framework, that is to find out the constraints, seek suggestions and formulate measures in promoting agri-entrepreneurship. This was dealt in 2 parts. In the first part, we have tried to list out different constraints in 4 dimensions and used Garrett ranking method to identify the constraints. In the administrative dimension, favorism for fund grants during pitching. In financial dimension, unavailability of priority lending and subsidy, delays in release of tranches of seed funding. In technical dimension, inadequate facilities for prototype testing. In socio-cultural dimension, societal orientation towards conventional earning ventures were among the topmost constraints that were marked by the entrepreneurs. To rule out these constraints, we have tried to formulate certain strategies which have been prioritized with the help of experts by using analytical hierarchy process method, in which we could find that financial dimension has received highest priority weightage, whereas the socio-cultural dimension has received lowest priority weightage. Looking at the dimension-wise results, we find that in the administrative dimension, transparency in evaluation of the idea, appointing full-time business consultants. In financial dimension, provision of subsidy and loan facilities post-program completion, timely disbursement and direct benefit transfer of the seed funds, attracting venture capitalists and angel investors. And among the technical dimension, establishment of agro-tech parks and linkage with FPOs. And in the socio-cultural dimension, institutional networking and exposure visits were among the topmost strategies that have been suggested, which can also be graphically depicted as this. The higher the length of the graph indicates the more important strategy, starting from post-program loan or subsidy, timely disbursement and direct benefit transfer, transparency in evaluation and so on, which has been put into a form of policy framework which has been published in one of the journals. Now, moving ahead to the outcomes of our study, we have done the institutional profiling through which we could understand the status and progress of these institutions, and we have documented the novel approaches which can be replicated by other institutions, and we have developed 2 research tools which will be of wide use to researchers across the globe, across the domains of agriculture and entrepreneurship, and which will also be registered as technologies in the ICAR soon. We have tried to identify and understand what are the key ingredients of an effective intervention that shall be used by other institutions and implemented. We have also identified certain constraints and strategies to rule out these constraints and put in the form of a policy framework. Moving ahead to the academic and extracurricular achievements during the course of my work, we have either published or accepted about 6 research papers and 1 review paper out of my doctoral work, out of which 1 was accepted very recently, just 4 days ago. I was part of the Postgraduate School Students Union in the capacity of Academic Council representative, and I was also part of the placement cell. For the first time in IRI, we were able to place about 9 students in my company. I was also part of the sports and games contingent, in which I represented IRI in table tennis, and I was also founding member of the Pusa Cycling Club. I have represented IRI in public speaking competitions, and I was fortunate to secure a silver medal for IRI in national level quiz competition. I have also been awarded with multiple fellowships and awards, including Best Paper, Poster Presentation Awards, and Best MSc Student and Best MSc Thesis Awards from Pantnagar. I also secured multiple national level competitive examination ranks, including UGC JRF and second rank in ARS examination. I would like to acknowledge the help of my chairperson, advisory committee, funding agencies, Division of Agricultural Extension, the respondents of the study, the graduate school, joint directors, Director ICAR-IARI, Director ICAR-IARI, for all the help that I have secured during the course of my work. Thank you.
Mr. Sujay,
Sir.
you have conducted a very good study.
Thank you, sir.
With very sound methodology. Very good. There are 2-3 small queries, questions. At district level, state level and national level, there are different support systems. Your study was related to support system. Is there any convergence between the different support systems?
Sir, as yet, during the course of my work, there were a bit of convergence between the SAUs and the KVKs, as well as there are certain ICR institutions which are running incubation centers. So there was definitely a convergence that we could find out, sir. But there has to be more and more convergence, especially we are a more connected subject, agriculture. So there has to be more and more convergence that I believe should be the point, sir.
Okay. Next question is, there are different support systems and there are facilitating and inhibiting factors.
Yes,
okay. So to your mind, what is the most facilitating factors for entrepreneurship development?
So most facilitating factors for?
For entrepreneurship development.
Sir, as I could make out from my study, funding has to be one of the prime factors, and apart from that, institutional support in terms of the technical input that the incubatees or the trainees get, they are the most important factors, sir. Funding especially, because all of the entrepreneurs that I interviewed, majority of them had expressed this fact that funding remains a concern, either there is favorism or some other kind of issue with funding. They also had a suggestion for me that like what we do in ACABC, these people after training they get a certain amount of funding, assured funding. But these entrepreneurs or incubatees, they don't have any assured amount of funding. That has to be one of the major factors. That will be an factor.
Okay, what about entrepreneurial motivation?
Yes, sir, of course. Entrepreneurial motivation is a precursor to all of this, sir. Yes.
You made a statement that 17% share of agriculture in GDP.
Yes, sir.
I think it is not correct. These figures are given 21%, 17%, 18%. Whether we are taking into consideration the value-added products from agriculture.
True.
To my mind, if we take into consideration the value-added, whatever you see in this hall and your cafeteria, everything is coming from agriculture. So its share should be around 45 or 46%. So congratulations, very good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sujay, and let's give a big hand to Sujay. The next presentation is from Ms. Nandita Munda.